Yeah, this is good stuff. In the finals, we have Mastion and Tukai versus Korin.
Yeah, different temps, of course. We always appreciate a little spiciness in the finals or in the tournaments period. So yeah, lovely to see it. But I'm excited. You know, Faiman has a bit of a similar team to Tsubaki, the Kinu, the Saku, the Wolfie, the Cerniv. Obviously, we've seen those time and time again. However, Tsubaki, I believe, didn't run Mashuk, Calibus, and Barnchy, so those could be a bit of a difference maker.
Yeah, but Faiman banning out Voloran just like he did against Ricky in the quarterfinals doesn't want to fight that very strong Fantastic Four bird. But that means that Mix is free to do what Mix does, and against a team like this, Mix could do quite a little bit. I mean, if it gets into Puppet Master, we're not really looking at AoE, you know, other than Wolfie.
Yeah, Wolfie, maybe a tsunami on the Tukai, perhaps. Or wait, no. AoE on Faiman's side, never mind. Does Karin maybe have the Rockfar or the Sandstorm? I'm trying to remember.
It may. Typically, we see like a willpower drain, stone. I really only know about willpower drain and stone ball, huh?
Yeah, willpower drain, stone ball. I mean, to be fair, there's not a lot of Karins being played around, so hey, much love to Faiman bringing out stuff. And I'm trying to remember. I mean, it's not the first time we've seen it. Wobbles brought it out to a tournament. I just can't recall what Wobbles had used. Let us know if you guys remember. But the mix, the sweatband mix, getting picked up instantly for Buffduck. Alright, so already looking like a solid opener. And Faiman, maybe this is more of an aggressive Calibus, because choosing to open with it is already a bold start.
Yeah, now following up, Buffduck brings his trusty old Yowler. After banning Kinu, there's really just Barnchy that counters Yowler now. If he doesn't come through, absolutely he will be banned. But or she. But this was a really good start from Buffduck again on yellow orange side, just countering out the blue side's counter pick. He says, you know, if you want to pick this Barnchy, you're gonna have to contend with my mix.
Yeah, I think Buffduck is just one of those tamers that prefers the orange side. As we saw, he losing against Tsubaki, preferring to go orange side. And I believe Tsubaki gave him blue side at that last game. So he was trying to throw him off like that. But here we go, already some cool stuff. Calibus, Karin, obviously Karin does a lot into the mix. Maybe Stone Ball, not enough to just straight up one-shot the mix, but it's gonna be close, perhaps like 90% damage. Unfortunately, I don't think Calibus is able to go first, because if Calibus could hit first, add Toxic Ink, and then a Stone Ball, mix would be all but done for really quick.
There's the potential, and I don't know how slow this Korin is built. I'd imagine if it's 50 speed, it is going to go first, even with that one prio. But there's definitely stranger things that we've seen in the past.
You're right. You could add some speed on Calibus. Well, yeah, you're right. To be fair, I don't remember exactly the base speed of Korin. I was just assuming because Calibus is just more on the slower end, just like your Sakus and Golders. But here it is, so no mental Temtems, as you said, Rawrzyyy. Barnchy has been taken care of, and Faiman, you got 1 second. I hope you decided. Ooh, I hope that wasn't an auto pick. But Cerniv just happens to be really good against this too, so better than Mashuk, I want to say. But Mashuk really good at eating these melee techniques with the parrier typing, so I'm not too sure. We'll see. Hopefully the Cerniv works out for him. I mean, this is that little salad package there. Saku, Wolfie, Cerniv. You're only missing the Kinu that enables, you know, the glue to piece everything together per se. But these guys could, you know, the pieces still work alone, of course.
Yeah, this is like you order a salad, but it doesn't come with any lettuce or spinach. It just has other vegetables and maybe some fruit.
There we go. But here we are waiting the entire day. It looks like it's about a 6-hour tournament today. So much love to everyone still tuning in. Much love to Rawrzyyy for helping us out here. Let's get into it. Game number 1 of our finals plus weekly tournament number 30. Let's jump into the very first turn. Mix Yowler standing tall for Buffduck's side. Calibus Karin standing strong for Faiman's side. One of these tamers are gonna get the early advantage with having an early lead, but we still got a set of 3 to get through. And yeah, let's try to think out some of these plays. It doesn't look like any too much effective damage. Yowler doesn't really have, you know, an uppercut to deal with Karin. But Karin does have some good stuff against Mix, so I guess Mix had to retreat there, as we're seeing for Buffduck.
Yeah, and the double in on Yowler turn 1, so Mix would have been safe to stay, but Clinch does come onto this Karin with the comebacker. It's gonna do quite a bit, down to 63 already, but definitely Yowler taking the root of that double hit instead of just the one that Karin took. I mean, both of these players, Faiman and Buffduck, in their respective matches on stream earlier, they were the players that stood tall on turn 1. They were the ones who didn't back down despite having some counters out there. The Skunch stayed in. I think Yowler stayed in. Definitely, you know, Buffduck backing down and retreating Mix and giving that up could be a little bit of sight into the future.
Yeah, I can see it.
Maybe Buffduck doesn't have the nerve against Faiman that he had earlier on.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Buffduck just played a whole series against Tsubaki, so either he's warmed up or worn out. We will see. Faiman had a bit of a rest since the semifinals had to be played out with a forfeit. So maybe he's feeling rusty or feeling still ready to go, full of energy. But I'm pretty sure these tamers are both feeling good, ready to roll. But Yowler, Ashi Dashi is online. That should be enough to one-shot a Karin from here. If it's not, a Plague is also available for the Wolfie. That's also effective damage onto the Karin. So I don't think this Karin's staying around much longer. However, there's not... I mean, I guess Saku and Cerny better options, but still, Ashidashi should do a good chunk of damage. But hey, Karin stayed in. I don't think it's gonna be around much longer.
Yeah, Plague trapping him in place. And Toxic Ink now from Calibus onto this Wolfie. Does a nice little chunk. Stone Ball outspeeding anything from the Yowler. Won't be enough to kill, but does bring us down to the red overexertion to its death. And the late Torment. Ooh, late Torment fails. If he had clicked Oshidashi, he would have still done some damage.
Yeah, I never actually seen that interaction, funny enough. I've always thought, you know, if a Tem goes down, the attack gets redirected just like any other attack. Rawrzyyy, how come late Torment doesn't work that way? Do you happen to know?
Late Torment has the prerequisite. Is it exhaustion or is it cage? I think that it has to be trapped.
You're right. If a Tem is trapped, that's the only way it does any effective damage. You're so right. I forgot about that little detail. So
yeah, it late Torment, it did get redirected towards this Calibus, but since Calibus is immune, can't get trapped, can't have late Torment damage.
Yeah, if Faiman read that, that was an insane play for Faiman, because that's a tricky interaction. If he thought, you know, I'm caged, so late Torment's coming out, let's go ahead and kill myself before Yowler comes through. Beautiful stuff for Faiman. But of course, maybe it just ended up working that way. But hey, we'll give the better end for Faiman, making a good play there. And now Saku comes out. Yowler very, very low. We saw Yowler going last, even compared to a Stone Ball. So any attack coming from Calibus, coming from Saku, should be closing the chapter on Yowler for this game 1. And you know what, Rawrzyyy? I really like the way Buffduck utilizes Wolfie here. He doesn't really do it for the damage. He does it just to trap the Tem in there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, trapping in Saku right now is potentially a good idea. There's not too much. I mean, Mix is okay here. I don't think that he's going to be knock down right away, but you also don't want to send him out into something that's not very strong, as you're just going to get close to Puppet Master but never quite trigger it. Scunch, I mean, Scunch is always good when you can perfect jab, but now Yowler's gone. There's no more physical attackers other than that Scunch. So perfect jab on a turn 1 off of a death like this isn't quite the play. So maybe trapping in Saku isn't going to turn into a direct KO right away, but down the line, it might be okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, as you say, if Scunch comes in, but no, it's going to be the Tukai to pressure out the Calibus. But the pressure goes both ways. Calibus still enough stamina with the Toxic Ink. But Tukai, probably the heavier hitter there. But you know, I was thinking maybe Scunch could come out, as you said, right, a P-Jab there, and then the next turn, since Cage is for this turn and the next, you know, P-Jab here, do a little damage with Wolfie again. I guess Wolfie dies though, but a little damage with Wolfie and then a heavy Savage Suplex the next turn. Maybe that would end the Saku. But I think Buffduck obviously had a different line of play in mind.
Yeah, it looked more like Buffduck wanted to target down Calibus, at least force the swap if he's able to. But yeah, I think potentially targeting the Saku while it's caged would be a very strong play. Definitely, since Saku does decent damage here. I mean, with its Toxic Spores, it's always going to be outputting damage, and its Wind typing means it doesn't really mind Tukai's Tornadoes, and Nature, so it doesn't really mind Tsunami's Sharp Rain. So Saku has a lot of staying power if you don't touch it.
Alright, so pretty good. Windburst onto the Cerny if you don't get any Colossi procs, of course, being special attack. But Windburst also doing a good chunk onto Scunch, man. Saku just hits so hard. And of course, Saku Tornado online. If a Windburst did all that, it's going to be very, very close. I mean, Cerny, if you got an attack as well, that should be enough. Tornado, Watercan Lily, staring down the Scunch, but at the same time, a Watercan Lily on Tukai is big damage. Something like Toxic Spores, Watercan Lily within the next 2-3 turns should be enough for the Tukai too. So a lot of damage potential coming out from Saku Cerny, aka Faiman side. So a lot of the momentum I'm feeling with the current board. But Scunch, I mean, Scunch is out. Everything is online. We haven't seen it triggered just yet. So we'll see what Buffduck has in mind. Is Connor getting low on most of his Tems? Faiman is doing such a good job.
I think a lot of that comes back to Faiman standing his ground on turn 1 and just attacking in towards Yowler, you know, confident that Mix was going to swap out. Of course, Buffduck does still have this Mix at full HP, well, potentially until this turn. But I think Faiman has just had a great control over this match due to that turn 1 lead. Tornado, though, does come for Cerny. Isn't enough to knock him down, but I don't think that was ever the goal. Watercutting Lily does hit Tukai, and Tornado onto this Mix. I don't think that's gonna be... Oh, 37.5! I'm eating my words. It is enough, just enough for Puppet Master. And now Mix is in a perfect place.
Yeah, perfect plays. Another double up. Or actually, wait, Tukai is not going to be able to attack thanks to Cerny being 3 prio with that Watercan Lily. However, mixed with the Crystal Spike, I don't think a single Crystal Spike kills, but 2 Crystal Spikes certainly kills. And yeah, there's no AoE techniques on the Saku, on the Cerny. I think Cerny does have access to like Stampede, but obviously not a lot of people run it. But yeah, this is pretty good if there's any way of Buffduck bringing things back, because if you look at the HP differentials, Buffduck, all his Tems are in the orange. Faiman rather in the green, especially because Cerny could revitalize back again with that nature synergy to his right. So we'll see Buffduck looking to turn things back around for himself. Can he get it done in the first game? Or is 5-1 gonna get a comfortable lead going into game 2?
Yeah, I mean, this would be a lot better for Buffduck if Yowler was still alive. just having somebody with more HP, a little bit tankier to stand by Mix is really important here, because now, I mean, like you mentioned, the Water Cutting Lily will outspeed Tukai, taking him down if he wanted to stay in, and that means that Saku would get a free hit onto Mix once more. So now Skunch comes in, just hoping he can survive this turn. Ooh, Cerny barely holding on just long enough to push. So Tukai, if he stayed in, he could have potentially done a little bit more. Toxic Spore is now onto the Skunch. Those 3 turns of toxic damage is going to be so detrimental to the final, I mean, best HP remaining Tem that Buffduck has.
Yeah, definitely. But however, Buffduck, we just saw Buffduck 3 prio outspeeds Faiman 3 prio, so Cerny is not safe whatsoever. So obviously thinking about perhaps a Wolfie, but you know what, Buffduck, a really good job with that Skunch being on the board, because you could just double in. The biggest question though, Skunch most likely, I mean, maybe, I don't think Ninja Jutsu is actually online, so maybe Saku outspeeds with a tornado to kill the Skunch, because I do think a tornado at this position, 46% should be enough. But okay, Cerny stays in just to sacrifice himself. So what does the Skunch get done?
Ooh, Skunch Savage Suplex goes before any Saku shenanigans. Not enough to kill, but the exhaustion could end up being massive. Wind Burst, not nearly enough stamina usage, but it is enough damage. Thanks to that toxic tick, Skunch falls down, and Saku only hurts himself a little bit.
Yeah, so good. Obviously, Tornado perhaps goes before the Skunch, but that would have been actually, wait, if it went before the Skunch, maybe it would have been about the same overexertion without that additional 50% due to the exhaust tick, but it ended up playing out the way it played out. So Wolfie and Mix looking like some of the final Tems. It's just Mix, Tukai, and Wolfie versus a Calibus, Saku, and a Wolfie. I think even though Tukai kind of, I mean, yeah, I think Wolfie just wins this on Faiman's side, right? Wolfie could plague its opponent's Wolfie, it could plague the Tukai, and it could just DV the Mix. So I think Faiman's Wolfie wins it for game 1, but of course we will see how it plays out. Just on paper, it's seemingly so. It just 100% is a lot to get down, especially before. All right, so let's see. So, oh, that's a Tinky Boy, just 20%.
Yeah, he's definitely tanky and slow, but I think that means he's gonna do it. I mean, the Plague coming back through does kill Wolfie. Psy Surge going last as it does with that priority, but Wolfie doesn't quite mind. He's still above 50%. He's not in any danger in this coming turn. Even with the Tukai, I'm pretty sure that he might outspeed anything other than the Tornado, which he'll eat.
Yeah, I don't even think it. We just saw how tanky that was. A special attack from Plague, so Wolfie at 52% probably doesn't even die from a tornado. And yeah, that's even if it outspeeds. Wolfie usually pretty speedy. It did outspeed Buffduck's Wolfie previously. Actually, no, it didn't, right? I think Buffduck attacked first. But still, it is a 3 prio play. So energy manip, okay, maybe tornado. I can't remember if it's online, but that's the only way. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, so now, just like you mentioned, Plague and now Mix. Oh, you poor Mix.
And there we go, Mix standing all alone where you don't want to be.
Of Kinu. So definitely, pretty much the same teams could still be had here if they wanted to go that way. Definitely Buffduck not wanting exactly, wants at least a couple of changes, maybe a tweak here and there, give himself the edge. He does lead with Mix this time. Before it was Yowler, right? So definitely Mix is changing directions.
Yeah, well, no, I thought he did start with Mix, right? Because it was like he finally got to play his Mix. I'm pretty sure it was a Mix and a Skunch opener, if I recall right. You know, it is getting late. We've been doing this for a while. So I do remember the mix. I just can't remember the second spot. But it was Calibus and Cerny to open it up for Faiman. So we'll see if he changes it up. So Wolfie and... Oh, no, it was Calibus Corrin. That's right. Yeah, you remember, Rawrzyyy? Corrin pressured out Mix that first turn. Because we were talking about the Stone Ball doing, you know, 80-90% onto the Mix. So this is an identical opener for Faiman. And yeah, I think it was Mix and Scunch because the Scunch... Oh, no, it was Mix and Yowler. We were discussing how Yowler didn't have an uppercut for the Corrin. So it could be a Mix Scunch this time. Doesn't seem all that bad.
Yeah, it does go for the Wolfie, which is better turn 1 pressure for sure. But maybe losing out on Scunch later on would be kind of detrimental if Faiman decides to ban that way. I would say Scunch or Yowler, maybe even Gulder after what we saw it do to Cerny in the semifinals.
So true, especially after Barnchy gets the ban too, because it's most likely going to get the ban. If it doesn't, it might be Saku as being the other Wintem. But yeah, if Barnchy goes down, then Scunch is relatively open. But maybe he thinks it's a lot easier to deal with Barnchy since you do have Mix, you do have those heavy crystal spikes, and Barnchy could probably barely take one, maybe like 80-90%. Could go all the way if it's no HP invested on the Barnchy, if it's really near close to all the way special attack on the Mix. I think it could one-shot. But I'm pretty sure Faiman has tech to not get one-shot by things like a crystal spike. So we'll see. But yeah, you know what? Not even banning the Saku or the Barnchy, respecting the Kinu there. So not trying to deal with the Kinu or Wolfie.
I'm curious if leaving the Barnchy is a little bit telling to what Buffduck is planning though. Because now if Barnchy does get picked, Mix can't stay in turn 1. Mix is absolutely necessary for Barnchy and sort of kind of for Mashuk.
Yeah.
So if he stays in and risks going down to that Stone Ball, that could already be GG just from turn 1.
Yeah, you know, Faiman not even thinking about the Barnchy, but kind of leaning towards that Saku, which makes some good sense. I mean, eats it so much better than a Barnchy could eat a Plague. But Barnchy has that mental pressure for the Scunch, and it's just one attack. One attack is all it takes for the Barnchy. So I think Faiman likes his odds for that single attack to get it done. But this is it. Game number 2 underway of our finals. One more time. Buffduck versus Faiman. Is Faiman going to close it out? Does he have the GG potential right here, right now? Or is Buffduck, he's been fighting it all day, making some upsets, and he doesn't like it when I call it an upset. But with the likes of taking down Matt Gia, taking down Tsubaki-chan, a lot of people could maybe see it as an upset. But Buffduck feeling like he was the favorite in those matchups. Of course, that is the championship mentality, and that's exactly what you need to bring things back. So let's see if he does just that. I'm excited either way. But as you said, Rawrzyyy, Mix not feeling too good again with the Corrin. He did swap it the first time. Is he gonna swap it again?
I wonder if this is the game where Buffduck has the nerve to stay and Corrin leaves due to Wolfie. We did see this Corrin can survive a single Plague, but he can't survive 2. And if he's trapped in, then that's absolutely what's going to happen. And if Corrin goes down, then Mix is a little bit more free. So if that's the way that this goes, I mean, Buffduck does start it off with retreating the Mix for Gulder, which I think is solid. I think protecting that Mix is going to be important.
Oh, exactly 50%. That is so insane. We barely see an exact damage go down. But I don't think Corrin or Buffduck or Faiman has a Kinu, so exactly 50%. There's no misses, there's no crits. So exact damage done onto the Corrin this next turn. And hey, I think that favors Buffduck, so thinking the Mix will stay in, perhaps just to do some good damage on Calibus. But good stuff. I think this 100% guarantees the kill on Corrin, as Wolfie was the first to move in the last turn.
Yeah, for Mix to stay in there, it would have had to be some kind of weird read where Faiman brings Barnshee in. I don't think any other play would have been worth it for Mix to risk it. So Goulder retreating now after taking the stone ball like a champ for the Mix, knowing that he doesn't have to worry anymore as Plague takes Corrin out of commission from 50 to 0, just like that. Calibus Toxicking once more towards Wolfie, gets us down pretty low, but you know, Wolfie always has that that bush potential lifeful sap. He can always get himself back up to where he was. So he's not necessarily out of the fight just yet.
Yeah, he has to find the wiggle room to get that lifeful sap off, because as it stands, if you go lifeful sap here, Watercurrent Lily, Toxic Ink, that probably will be enough for the Wolfie, just hanging out at 25%, so a bit dangerous, but maybe a little bit down the road. And Mix comes back out, replacing the Goulder, so now it's time to get rid of the Cerny, and Mix does a great job, so 35% with the Plague. Wolfie just ready to go back to his temp card, supposedly.
Yeah, I think that's worth it though. I think sacrificing Wolfie here to trap Cerny in for 2 more turns. Oh, and that is so good as Mix now. 39.2.
Wait a minute. I think Faiman maybe did the calculations but forgot about the water synergy, because that was really close. Without the water synergy, it would have been above Puppet Master range. But with the water synergy, brings it right under Puppet Master range. However, I even think without the water synergy, Toxic Ink wouldn't have killed, so he would have ended up in Puppet Master range regardless.
Yeah, there's the potential that he Toxic Inked the Wolfie on purpose anyway to take that down, and then was hoping that another Water Cutting Lily the following turn would be the killer for Mix.
That's probably right.
But this worked out so well for Buffduck, as now Mix is perfectly happy. Goulder, we have seen what it can do to a Cerny, and this Cerny's not going anywhere.
Yeah, that is, as we said, Buffduck's using that Wolfie so well. So another one, and just a single one left. Of course, Revitalize trying to bring it back up to 45%. But man, Goulder gonna be chunking it back down a size. So definitely one more Crystal Spike, which it has to take because it's trapped in. You can't swap out. Buffduck is looking good. He has a lot of momentum going forward and keeps trucking along, looking fairly good.
I mean, this Mix could potentially even Emanip here. I think that would be enough to kill it, and he doesn't even have to waste the stamina. So now Tukai coming out. I guess there is a little bit of risk there, as Calibus is absolutely going to use the Toxic Ink. Or no, I'm sorry, it rested. It was a little bit low. I guess maybe thinking Emanip. But either way, it's definitely Toxic Ink coming soon. And Tukai doesn't really like taking those. Thankfully, Tornado is online, but you don't really want to risk Tukai dying and leaving Mix out in the cold.
Yeah, we'll see. So 2 Temtems down for Faiman. Quite a speedy game. Only turned 5 and 2 Temtems already down. Mushuk coming out, trying to get some good answers. But hey, Mix is not only capable of doing some crystal damage, also able to apply some mental damage, and that is exactly what can go down and really pressure out the Mushuk. But also Tukai, wait a minute, what was his other choice? Okay, Barnshee, okay, yeah, it was a bit of a lose-lose situation there. Barnshee to eat a Crystal Spike, Mushuk to eat up a Side Surge, and a win technique from Tukai. I think this one is in Buffduck's side. He has a lot of momentum and there is no signs of him slowing down.
Yeah, I mean, this was a good perfect jab to outspeed a Toxic Ink. It's gonna do so much more damage. Tukai going to die at the end of it all, but the Side Surge onto Mushuk means that it's a trade. It's a very clean trade. And just because Calibus is still alive does not mean that Faiman has won this at all, as Mix can certainly take down this Barnshee.
Exactly right. A double up, if not a single attack. We'll tell if the TV's a bit. It could just be, you know, max special attack, max speed. If one crystal spike takes care of it outright, then it's probably something like that. If it doesn't kill, there's definitely a decent amount of HP, but Golder's still here. Not actually, wait a minute, Rawrzyyy could maybe one shot, but it doesn't have tornadoes, so crystal spikes gets thrown out and just up to 25%.
Yeah, and Gulder survives the hypoxia, is going to survive the toxic ink. Rawrzyyy is on his way down, potentially this turn, if it's, yeah, neutrality keeps it alive just long enough. But now, I mean, Mix is going to kill Rawrzyyy, and then Scunch and Mix are going to wreak havoc on a low stamina Calibus.
Yeah, beautiful stuff. So a quick 3 prio energy manipulation to close things out. And it's just the Calibus versus the world. There's still a Scunch in the backline that will completely destroy a Calibus. Not completely, but definitely does a lot of good physical damage. And there it goes. That was
yeah, so far everything is the same once more. So kind of contradicting the semis. Now it's all the same. But you know, before we had 3 very different games between Buffduck and Tsubaki. Now it's the Scunch and the Mix. So there have been slight changes, but for the most part it's been the same theme for these leads.
Yeah, interesting enough, Faiman leaning towards the Corrin again, even though Scunch is pretty effective. It's not as good as a Wolfie where you trap it, you do the 50% and trap it for the next turn. But still, Scunch should be able to do a lot of damage. But maybe he feels comfortable since it won't be trapped for that turn, that, you know, the damage could be done. You know what it is? Maybe a Toxic Ink definitely outspeeds a 1 prio Stone Ball. So Toxic Ink the Mix and then Stone Ball the Mix. That's probably what Faiman has in mind. But of course, Buffduck has been swapping the Mix every single game. Game 1, Game 2. So likely to swap out again. But we'll see. He could play it different. Just doesn't have a lot of pressure in that opener. It's more the Scunch having the pressure. And of course the Corrin.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mix just needs to be in the party somewhere, and this is the only place he gets to play. So you lead with him, you throw somebody else in to take that Stone Ball. I mean, that was a good ban for Faiman getting rid of the Gulder this time. Gulder was a fantastic turn 1 swap in earlier, and was also a fantastic swap in for the Cerny after it got trapped. So getting rid of that high damage Gulder is actually really solid for some of the salad aspects of Faiman's team.
Exactly right. And speaking of salad, the one Temtem that puts it all together is Cerny. Does get picked up. Obviously really good time against Tukai. Interesting enough that he goes into the Tukai pick there. Obviously fearing the Calibus and the Mashuk in the back line. Since he doesn't really have any other Wintems, you kind of need Wintems. You have Mental for the Mashuk, but you don't really have answers for that Calibus, so it's almost a must on the team. Who is he rounding out? Wolfie feels good. It did a lot of work to Karn, and Buffduck uses it so well, trapping the opponent. You know, just letting the Wolfie go, and then you bring in an answer while that Tem is trapped. So just like Buffduck, a fantastic cage user, a fantastic handcuff user as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting too, that we did see cages out of Mix prior, and as well as the Wolfie. So he really does play with that trap status quite well. You know, he was the one that both sides of Faiman's team were trapped simultaneously, but no cage was used, so Buffduck was still free to swap as he pleased.
Exactly. And yeah, I remember he's one of the few that thinks so far ahead when he uses cage. This was a couple tournaments ago, of course. But yeah, just a really bright guy. But Rawrzyyy getting picked up to try to answer the Scunch and the Yowler on Buffduck's team. Obviously a must, so Faiman thinking and rounding out his team. Is it the Mashuk? Is the Saku? Both are good options. I think Mashuk more of a pivot into those heavy hitting attacks. Saku could just be good damage dealer, as we saw those Wimbers smack, those Tornadoes smack, so it could be a Saku pickup. Either or feels okay. Mashuk didn't do all that much. I mean, Mashuk came in on a board with Mix and Tukai. So there we go. Saku, solid lineup for Faiman. And hey, funny enough, Buffduck won, so Faiman got to decide. Wait, no. Faiman lost, so Faiman got to decide, and Buffduck still. Oh wait, never mind. What am I talking about? All right, let's get into it. Let's get into it. Game number 3, last and final time. Literally the moment we've all been waiting for. Faiman and Buffduck, very last game of our finals. Let's go.
Yeah, we see from the get-go Calibus and his trusty chamomile surviving any. Well, I mean, right now it's not going to be too much, but there's always the Emanip if Mix wanted to stay in. There's always the Trapped, which is the big one. But with no Wolfie this time, Mastion was just too good of a pick for this Sagu. So maybe Chamomile won't actually be as big of a deal as it used to be.
Yeah, you're right. And it didn't really do all that much. Always on Calibus, it's always a bit strange. Obviously for the cage, probably has the most value. Because obviously you can't get Toxic Think, so I'm thinking it's just for it to swap out potential. Or do you see any other uses for the Chamomile Calibus, Rawrzyyy?
It's really gotta just be about Trap and Sleep.
Yeah, Trap.
Those are the only two
right.
that would impact Calibus negatively.
Yeah, kind of like a energy drink. So most people could run an energy drink on Calibus. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But Mix, look again, swapping out, and there we go. Scunch doing effective damage onto Corrin. One next turn, Corrin cannot stay in, but unlike the previous game, Wolfie did not trap him in, so Corrin free to swap out. And whoa, doubling into Scunch, just perfect, or not perfect, but enough damage for those toxic ticks to go. So really good exchange for Faiman, a lot of damage in that opener, so much damage that Scunch goes down in the next turn. There is no such thing as Revitalize on Buffduck's team, so nice and early turn 2, taking care of a big damage dealer, and you did it without losing any HP on Rawrzyyy, which is really good.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering here for Buffduck, does he just want to click Perfect Jab again? I think Corrin is likely to swap out thanks to the introduction of Tukai. So maybe, I mean, if it's Cerny, that's kind of a negative. If you just punch a Colossity Cerny and it accomplishes nothing. But for everybody else, getting that -1 defense would actually be pretty solid.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe though it's just a heavy Savage Suplex. Savage Suplex plus Tornado on a Cerny, that's gonna bring it really low. But we'll see. Could split damage. Yeah, Calibus was feeling a bit risky to stay in, so it's both Nature Temps. Saku to perhaps eat the Tornado. Cerny, oh, and it was. Nice read for Faiman.
Yeah, absolutely. Saku only taking 19%, and Oshidashi onto Cerny does a little bit more, but still not enough to really make a difference this early on. Losing out on Scunch and giving Cerny its first +1 defense is potentially a win for Faiman.
Alright, so Faiman bringing out the Nature Temps, so Buffduck bringing out the Fire Temtems, and this is one of the heaviest hitting ones. Mastion to try to do some work. He's a bit flimsy in that special defense department, so a Saku Tornado should still be chunking, probably over 50%, especially being Air Specialist, with the Hand Fin I believe as well. But we'll see, is it enough to bring down the Cerny? Wind Burst plus the Embers, or yeah, I think Embers is the only thing it has out right now. No Quetzaleno. Or does Corrin come out to eat all that? This is tricky.
Yeah, I would expect Corrin probably in for Cerny, and then Saku taking advantage of that lower special defense like you had mentioned. And that kind of works out really well for Saku, because I think despite Embers being effective damage, Saku will probably do more damage, and Tukai can't fight back, so it does retreat for Yowler. And Tukai, probably the fastest thing on the board, so yeah, Cerny retreating afterwards for this Rawrzyyy. So that was a very good read, putting Mental in against neutral. Tornado onto Mastion 100%, down to 62. So it did eat that pretty well.
Yeah, that did.
Definitely not perfectly. Embers does just a little bit more than that Tornado. It is enough to kill this turn, though.
Yeah, Faiman getting the better of that read there. So Yowler coming out, but Faiman anticipating the neutral Yowler, bringing out that mental Barnchy. So a lot of pressure back out. We saw Saku ate it quite well, but Rawrzyyy, Embers did 37, right? It did what Saku has right now?
I believe that it did.
Okay. I didn't see where it started, so I believe you. So yeah, Saku should... I didn't see who attacked first since it was a tornado, so we can't really tell. But both of these stems are really, really slow. I don't know who's slower. I think Saku naturally slower. But man, Mastion also really, really slow. So we'll see. Tornado's not online. But maybe if Buffduck swaps out Yowler, maybe it's the Barnchy with the heavy hitting tornado on Mastion instead, anticipating the swamp. But you know, someone else did the mistake of not beta bursting the Yowler when you had, or beta bursting the neutral Tem where you could. So we'll see. I mean, a couple options for Faiman. Yowler could do a big savage suplex to kill the Saku as well. Try to retreat Mastion for something like a Tukai, eat up the wind damage. So a couple line of plays I can see that could end up working out.
Potentially Mix as well, as we've seen Mix eat quite a few big hits just to land perfectly nestled at 39.8%.
Yeah, of course. And then for the following turn, Mix does so much against Barnchy, as we saw, about like 70 or so. It ended up being at 20-25%. So yeah, big damage. So I see these guys take, this is a big turn. So much can go, like, you know, you can overthink it, not go straight forward into Yowler, or, you know, try to bring down the Mastion again, but get caught into the Tukai. So I don't blame these guys taking their time, really trying to make the ideal play. But it's almost like there's no right play. It comes down to what's a bit of the safer play, right?
Yeah, I think neither of these players is really wanting to do the safe play. I think they want to just do some damage, make the win happen quickly. But definitely swapping out Saku for Calibus is probably a must. You definitely don't want to lose Saku that early on. And Buffduck doing the same, bringing Tukai in for Yowler. Doesn't want to take that much damage, but instead it's an E-Manip onto Mastion, taking it just below 50%. But the exhaustion is the big deal here. He's trapped in place.
Ooh.
Meteor Swarm does so much with that stamina and hardly any damage at all.
Yeah, that was big. So that's where the handcuff has been the whole time. We finally get it revealed, because I don't think Barnchy has trapped anything in the previous games. So nice. Mastion is nice and trapped, but good thing Buffduck brought out the Tukai, because Calibus is not going to get away with murder that freely, because Calibus does have things like Ice Stalactite online. It does have a Water Jet online, so that should easily be enough to kill it, even without the Toxic Tick. But Tukai is going to make sure it doesn't get away freely, so 90%, maybe under 50% of course, with a big tornado headed its way. Maybe though, Calibus swaps out and it's Barnchy doing the rest of the damage on the Mastion, but take a look, Mastion has coats. That's why I was able to eat up that Saku damage so well.
Yeah, I mean, you say well, but it did still do quite a bit of damage early on. I mean, it's what put Mastion in this position now, where he's really just taking those two win techniques. Or no, I'm sorry, he took an E-Manip last time. But yeah, Calibus does retreat for that Saku. Definitely a little bit weaker to any embers, but much stronger to any tornadoes. So Tukai just throwing all of that stamina up against the wall. Beta burst coming from Kinu towards this Mastion, trying to avoid the coat.
Wait, this really hurts the Barnchy.
Abs
Oh, that's some good damage.
I mean, that was good damage. It wasn't enough to knock down Barnchy, so he's still going to be around for a little bit longer. Well, now Mix is out, so that all changes. I think we saw in previous matches that Buffduck's Mix is faster than Faiman's Barnchy. So Crystal Spikes here definitely kills a 27% Mix. And does quite a bit to everyone in the back except for Corin, but but there's a Tukai out here, and Tukai can hurt Corrin quite a lot.
Yeah, I guess double into any spot. So Crystal Spike will go first. And maybe getting rid of the Saku. I mean, Barnchy, I feel like you can get rid of it pretty easily once because you don't want Saku to Lifeful Sap and then recover back up. So I'm thinking you just Crystal Spike that spot. If it does become a Corrin, maybe you double in with the Sharp Rain on that spot. Could be double, or if it, we haven't seen a Tsunami from a Tukai. Maybe he's been holding that back this whole time. Maybe something like that. But Barnchy, I think it's gonna swap. Not doing all that much here. A neutral beta burst, or on 100%, you're not getting a kill here. You need your Barnchy for the Yowler, but Crystal Spike does get the kill on the Saku as expected. So what did the Tukai do? Because if it was oh, is this enough for the Barnchy? Oh, it was almost a double kill.
Yeah, that would have worked out very well for Buffduck if he had taken them both down. Hydrologist just barely not enough. And the Beta Burst not really doing too much to Tukai, more of a tickle than anything else. So he's still pretty healthy for Corrin and for Calibus as he's needed. Now Cerny coming out to stare down this mix. He doesn't have that water synergy this time, so he hopefully doesn't set this mix into Puppet Master. And that puts Mix in quite the predicament where he doesn't want to eat a Water Cutting Lily this turn and risk his life later.
Exactly right. Now the question is, does Buffduck just want to put an end into Barnchy, or do you want to start ticking away at the Cerny? I believe just 2 Crystal Spikes should be enough at this position. But you know what? Actually, it's kind of close. It's kind of close. If you get rid of Barnchy, Yowler's going to do a lot of work. You have a big Ashi Dashi for Corrin. You could do a Savage Suplex for Calibus. And then Cerny, you got to pray the mix is enough. So this is pretty close. I honestly can't tell who has a slight edge. I'm trying to think about it.
I think if Buffduck wanted to double into Cerny this turn, it wouldn't cost him anything. The worst of it would just be the potential damage on Mix not hitting him into Puppet Master. But there was also always the chance that the Water Cutting Lily was going to target Tukai, just expecting that Mix to swap out after what we'd seen prior. But it is a couple of swaps going both ways. Crystal Spikes onto Corrin, so a fantastic read from Faiman. And Frondweb hitting this Yowler for about 30%.
Yeah, really good read for Faiman. I was thinking if Buffduck wanted to hedge his bets, Barnchy was pretty low enough. Maybe just a little light energy manipulation. You would have killed the Barnchy if it stayed in. If it's Corrin, you don't waste a big Crystal Spike on it, and you still do decent damage. But hey, the Crystal Spike still did okay damage despite being half effective. But all not that bad. Yowler Ashi Dashi is online. Is that faster than the one Prio Stone Ball coming into mixed direction? And that will kill. Water Cutting Lily goes first. I don't believe one Water Cutting Lily gets it down under 40%. A Stone Ball will do the rest. So there's a kill potential staring down Mix. So we're seeing, as I said, this is so close. But if Corrin stays in, I mean, Mix goes down, Corrin goes down, but Mix going down, I think, is way more of a difference maker than a Corrin going down here. Because Mix is really the true answer to the Cerny. Yowler's just gonna start stacking up those defenses.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. He needs that special attacking Mix for this Cerny. As soon as it's down to Yowler, it's over. Yowler would not be able to handle it. I mean, potentially, but I made that call earlier with a Goulder, and I learned to live to regret that. But I think that this time Cerny would actually survive the onslaught.
Very true, and you weren't alone. A lot of people around were saying, yeah, I was saying the sweatband user. A lot of people were saying, yeah, Cerny got it, but yeah, Buffduck doing such a good job making those perfect reads with the bush. But Faiman taking those final 40 seconds to deliberate amongst themselves. What does he want? Okay, playing it safe, Buffduck does, retreats the Mix, knowing that the kill potential was there. But let's see if Corrin goes down. But he has to eat the Water Cutting Lily with Tukai. That hurts.
but now Oshidashi towards this Korin's more than enough to bring him down. 2 more Tems remaining for, or no, 3 more Tems remaining, I'm sorry, for Faiman. Calibus still in the back, pretty much full HP, and now that Tukai is nice and low HP, that is a little bit of a benefit for this Calibus's future. Rawrzyyy does come out first, though, just wants to take down this Tukai without risking any more damage. Potentially even outspeed, get a nice E-Manip onto this Yowler.
Yeah, so the question is, is E-Manip gonna, well, no, I feel like you gotta kill the Tukai too. I mean, actually, Water Gun Lily obviously kills Tukai, so yeah, I guess good mental damage onto Yowler. But the question is, can Tukai kill the Rawrzyyy? It's kind of a lose-lose though, because you Tornado. If you do outspeed, you just Tornado the Rawrzyyy to do 2.5% damage, which honestly feels bad, but you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. And then is Mix and Yowler versus Calibus Cerny. This is interesting. Things are heating up, approaching the end game here. And it's funny to say that in turn 9, but yeah, approaching closer to the end, about 2 Temtems apiece. This is a big turn though. If Energy Manip kills a Tukai, okay, so Tukai retreats for Mix. Let's see what goes down. If Rawrzyyy gets a heavy attack on Yowler, which it looks like it will with the Beta Burst.
Ooh. Mix just barely making it into Puppet Master. Yowler surviving long enough to kill the Rawrzyyy, and now it's down to Calibus and Cerny. Mix is able to survive. Yowler though, low HP. Tukai, very low HP, so maybe Puppet Master's not as good as it used to look.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the final 2 Tems, of course, Tukai's in the back line, so it'll give that Puppet Master an additional turn. But now it's time. I think you take down the Cerny, and then Calibus might have a tough time, or we'll see. It should be 2 Crystal Spikes takes down the Cerny. I don't think Yowler's gonna be able to get off a final attack here. Maybe though, maybe if it's outspeeds the Calibus, we're gonna see. So Energy Manip saving some stamina onto Cerny. Oh, trying to go for a big overexertion. This is a good play.
Yeah, the Revitalize does come through. Looks like they were expecting the double Crystal Spikes to come out, but overexertion didn't really do any damage. Maybe potentially that was a perfect landing.
Yeah, I think it was a perfect landing. It didn't overexert, and whoa, the water jet didn't kill the Yowler, so Puppet Master's still online. This is so close. Wait, let's try to play it out. So Water Can Lily could kill the Yowler, but Mix goes first. So Cerny goes about 50% of the Cerny. You could also spike the Calibus. Wait a minute. I mean, the HP advantage is leaning towards Faiman currently.
Yeah, I think Buffduck's in a really difficult spot here. Potentially even more so because Yowler survived. Because now Yowler doesn't outspeed anything. There's no way that Calibus can go down before.
Well, Yowler outsped the Calibus. That's about it, right?
If Yowler had died previously, Tukai could come in. Buffduck could double into this Calibus spot, potentially kill it, and then have Cerny kill Tukai, and it would be Cerny versus Mix, which could be in Buffduck's favor. But I think that Yowler surviving might actually be the end.
Alright, so that was about 50%, and Oshidashi going before the Cerny, going before the Yowler. That's impressive. Was it a double rest? Wait a minute, did Faiman DC at the end? Wait a minute. That could have been a strategic rest, expecting an energy manipulation. Unless he did overexert. I thought he didn't overexert. Oh,
it might have been by one
the
and
time.
we didn't notice damage loss, but I mean, Calibus should have attacked, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think it came down to time. Faiman running out of time mixed with the closing impact. Tukai with the closing impact. And it looks like we're going. Oh, no. Buffduck. For some reason, I thought we were going game 3. Buffduck, our weekly tournament 30 champion.